whatever's in the outdoor air affects what we breathe on our in our indoor spaces. So not just you try to come in for protection sometimes, right, or come inside to alleviate what might be going on outside, but it has a direct, whatever's going on outside has a direct impact on our indoor air.
Clean Comfort has solutions that work in conjunction with your current equipment that's able to reach all the rooms. Absolutely. Let's do this. First off, thanks everyone for joining. Again, my name is Jonathan Cramer, and with me is Rob Emerzecki, and we are very excited to be here today and kind of talk to you about how to grow your business with IAQ, and how to be successful and what we've seen in the market over the last two crazy years. So for today's presentation, we're just going to really just kind of start with defining the indoor air quality problems and what that kind of looks like, and then having solutions and answers for all of those problems. And then again, to ways to sell the Clean Comfort product line and grow your business and grow your area, whether you're a dealer, TSM, or branch manager, anything like that. This is a perfect presentation for you, and then ways you can promote it moving forward. So with that being said, why don't we kind of see what the world's been like? Rob, you want to kind of give us some insight into that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jonathan, for having me here today, too. I appreciate the opportunity. I love talking about anything indoor air quality related, and this is fun. So I appreciate you inviting me to have a little fun with you this afternoon. When I typically do contractor training, I think it's very, very important to put IAQ in perspective, right? Compared to, especially after, like you said, the last 2 years of our lives and how it's changed, with a pandemic. You take it's like a little time capsule here, this slide. So if you go back in time, and not that air pollution's not, it's still there, but the conversation changed, is my point, over the past 2 years. It's evolved, right, in our trade. I think our industry and our trade has changed forever because of our, a lot of people's lives have, but in our industry, it's really changed, and this conversation is not going to go backwards. But it's important to remember, what the conversation was like a few years, and just a couple of years ago. There's always been air pollution. It has gotten better, honestly, over the years. So I think in 2020, it says there 68 million tons of pollution. That number is actually lower than it has been in a long time, if you looked at previous decades, right? And the point of this is, whatever's in the outdoor air affects what we breathe on our in our indoor spaces. So not just you try to come in for protection sometimes, right, or come inside to alleviate what might be going on outside, but it has whatever's going on outside has a direct impact on our indoor air, especially with the wildfires that seem to keep reoccurring and have gotten, I think, worse, if you will, over the past few years. I mean, that you have to have people shelter in place in their homes now because of the smoke and what's going on outside. So again, this kind of puts us in perspective. And again, the point here is whatever's outside is going to affect what happens on the inside. And we are we're indoor beings. There's no doubt about that. Oh, speak of being an indoor being, there we go. We are an indoor species. I love this slide because, we do spend over 90% of our lives indoors somewhere, whether it's, and most of the time it is at home and or work. And because of that, a lot of attention has been put on drinking water, and how that should be clean drinking water. And honestly, the air is just as equally as important, and because we're in indoor spaces 90% of our lives, it's super important to our well-being. And what happens, as buildings and homes have tightened up, gotten more insulated, more efficient, the downside of that story is when you bottle something up, it tends to get stale, right? So if you take for a visual here, take your house and shrink wrap it, right, in plastic wrap, and you stay and live in there in 6 months of the year, like we do in the northern climates in the heating season, southern climates, the cooling season. What happens if you can't open the windows and doors? Well, you get the air gets terrible, and the EPA actually did a study on that and found that indoor levels of pollutants can be on average 2 to 5 times higher. Some really bad instances much greater than that. So again, the point here is we spend the bulk of our lives inside somewhere. And I always like to point out, if there's one place that you can take control over your breathing air, where would that be? It would be your home, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, if you really even think about it, we are indoor species, but now more than ever, we are in environments where we're indoor and we can't even like we can actually control the actual environment. You know, a lot of times at work, if you're uncomfortable being too hot or maybe too cold or you're sticky, that
Yeah.
it's not you can't change it, right? You don't have access to that. But now that we're indoor at our house, you know, that's a huge advantage.
That's the good news. Honestly, that's why we're here today. That there is good news to share, and being in this trade, which is a wonderful trade that we're in, people are relying on us to be the experts and offer solutions. And you know, that's the benefit here. And the title of this presentation today, it's how to grow your businesses with this in mind, right? It's diversifying your portfolio. It's adding to your services. If you're not already offering indoor air quality, this is an avenue to help improve your margins and boost your business, and actually help people along the way.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, what is, I mean, I know we're about to talk about it, but the most common thing that a lot of Americans suffer from is allergies, right? Like,
Oh,
what's some of the ways we can even evaluate that?
again, I love this. I love this information. Actually, I wrote this slide a couple of years ago. This was pre-pandemic, and this conversation still hasn't changed. Think about it. So it's a couple of years ago, before we were going crazy and you know, worried about getting sick. It's still the conversation was seasonal allergies, and it's a huge part of the population. In fact, 50 million, roughly 50 million people are affected with allergic disorders, and it happened to have been the sixth leading cause of chronic illnesses back in 2019 when I wrote this. In addition to that, you have 11 million people that still, asthma hasn't gone away. It's still, it's still prevalent. In fact, I think asthma cases have gone up, if I'm not mistaken, as time goes on, for various reasons. But again, this part of the conversation is still there. It's not going anywhere, and solutions are still needed.
Absolutely. And leading into those solutions, there's a good amount of them.
Oh, here we go. I love it's so funny every time I might see that. This is awesome. This is perfect segue. There are this, and again, here we're preaching good news, right? The good news is clean air strategies, and here they are. And this is what, again, when we do indoor air quality training with contractors, this is so important because IAQ is not a silver bullet kind of solution. There are multiple solutions. And the reason is, every home is different, every homeowner's different, every building is different, every building occupant is different, and they all have different requirements. You have to match the solution to the space and the people within the space. So there is no one right way, but there's multiple ways. And honestly, the more solutions you can employ or bring into the system, the better off you will be, right? From a well-being standpoint. So traditionally, we talk about source control. In the traditional sense, I mean, if you have any water leaks or water issue in the dwelling, you have to take care of it, or it's going to be a perpetual problem. So fixing any water leaks, damp basements and crawl spaces, even rodents, right? I mean, and I grew up in the field and did service calls, and I'll tell you the number of insects or what they leave behind, which is gross, but they're allergens, right? And I had allergies, and those are all allergens, and it's an issue. So source control would be, okay, maybe a rodent protocol. In the terms of HVAC though, it's germicidal ultraviolet radiation, or UVC lamps, that actually help in this area to help keep the air conditioning systems clean and free and not become the source of any type of problem. So UVC typically is used to inhibit microbial growth on evaporator coils. Excuse me. So that is, in terms of source control, is UVC and what we mean there as far as HVAC contractors and what we can offer, right? Unless you want to order insect or rodent control to your portfolio, that's fine too. I think we got enough to sell though. Fresh air, air dilution, bringing outside air in. Yeah, I can't understate the importance of this. It's a universally accepted solution, commercially, residentially. You look at ASHRAE, EPA. Fresh air, is like I said, it's universal. But we can't afford to have the windows and doors open all year round, depending on where you are. If you do live in an area like that, more power to you, right? But most of us don't. Again, northern climates, we need to keep the windows and doors closed due to low temperatures and/or humidity. Same thing, southern environments, too hot or too humid, and you can't leave those doors and windows open. And like we just said previously, when the house is closed up, This is when bad things happen. So there is a mechanical way to bring fresh air in through ventilation, okay? We can't understate the importance of that. Air filtration, contractors, this is probably where they have the most opportunity out there, because most forced air systems will have an air filter of some sort in it. And the bulk of the population, I think it's over 50% of homes still today have some sort of 1-inch disposable filter in them. This is where the trade can really add value to homeowners, right? Talk about air filtration and taking an additional step to increase to a better air filter, especially even if it's just allergies you're worried about, okay? If you're worried about getting sick, and we will talk about this, adding hospital grade filtration or HEPA filtration, it's possible to do in homes. And we'll get into that here shortly too. Filtration, again, another method or means to help improve the air quality for our well-being. And then purification, right? There's all kinds of devices out on the market. I think it's really important here. You know, if somebody can't afford a fresh air ventilator or a HEPA ventilator, then maybe we do look at an air purification device. But again, here, third-party tested and validated, something that, you know, can back up and do what it says it's supposed to do with a third party. So with purification, there's all kinds of strategies we could talk about there, and we're going to. And humidity, this is, we'll come back to this again here in a minute, I know, but this is another area where the narrative has changed over the past couple of years, because in traditional terms, we've talked about it for more or less, so, you know, for your things in your house, keeping them from getting destroyed for humidity, more so than our own well-being. We're going to talk about humidification and dehumidification and how to keep and maintain the proper humidity level. Again, the advantage as a trade as a whole, and all of you watching today, you know, we have whole home solutions here we want to talk about. You can go head to head and do a much better job than big box stores, because they offer room only solutions. You guys have whole home solutions that honestly is money better spent. Why do one room when you can do all the rooms in the house? And this is your toolbox right here, right? These are the means and the solutions that you can apply on a case-to-case basis to the dwelling and to the homeowner. And now that you see the different tools that are your tool belt, I think this lends to, you know, one of the best product lineups that I've seen in a long time, and that is the Clean Comfort product lineup to address
Absolutely.
every one of those solutions.
That's one of the exciting parts, is that we are a complete family. We have everything that you need. Now, just to kind of take a step back, just to kind of give you guys the history of Clean Comfort, for those of you guys who are unaware, but actually Goodman has a lot of product managers, just like myself. So we have a controls one, we have an air handler one, we have a furnace, we have an outdoor guy, and we have an IAQ, and that is what I do. And so with that being said, when we decided to have an IAQ brand, we had Goodman paint colors coming in with IAQ products and a Goodman badge, and we also had a Mana. But our vendors and the complications of the different paint colors allowed us to not really get a price break. So what we decided to do was to create one paint color under the Goodman paint color and brand it Clean Comfort. That way we can work with any of the solutions you have, whether it's Goodman, a Mana, Daikin, or, you know, Carrier Trained. It doesn't matter the actual equipment, because everything that we do is more aftermarket. It's all retrofitted, or it can be sold with the job, residential new construction. But the point I'm trying to make is it has no interfacing with the actual equipment. So that being said, there's a lot of new banners here, which is kind of obnoxious in a sense, like, why do we have all these new banners? But the reality is we have launched 20 new products in 2020 and 2021. So over the last 2 years, we have pretty much a brand new lineup. And the reason for that is that when we go out there and we private label our products, we want to make sure that our vendors have our back and our actual good in mind. Like, they want us to be successful as much as we want to be successful. And that is one of the major things that you really get with the Clean Comfort brand, because we're managing all of that at the corporate level. We're going after the vendors for late POs, or we're going after them to make sure they have safety stock, or we're checking in with them on the seasons. Like, hey, right now we're in humidifier season. So we have been working very, very closely with Honeywell on making sure that we have enough humidifiers that are going to allow us to be successful this season, because you can't sell what you don't have. And so that is the kind of things that we're doing and we're operating. Another thing that we can do is that, since we have such a large buying power, is that we can offer you quality products at a quality price. So we're able to really kind of go after those competitions with our pricing, and we're able to not sacrifice on the actual quantity of that. So what that means is they have our best interest. And then we also have a simple way of warranting all of our products. So anything that you saw that was a new icon, all of those are actual field scrap warranties, and that can be processed through Warranty Express. So those of you who have always wondered, like, hey, how do I, Clean Comfort's built with 9 different vendors. How do I go for each one of these claims? Well, there's no reason to worry anymore. You just go through Warranty Express the same way you do your Goodman equipment. And it's easy as that. And a lot of times, like I said, we're offering a field scrap warranty. So you bring the item in that may have happened. We process the Warranty Express, and we'll give you a new one, no questions asked. So that's a really big plus. The last thing is, again, we're constantly evolving. We're picking up with the times. If there's something out there that we don't have, we are evaluating it, and it's in the queue, and we are looking for ways to be successful. So always be on the lookout for that. And the way you can do that is checking out our Clean Comfort website. So www.cleancomfort.com has everything you need to know about all of our product lines. So that being said, if you see a model number here today where you're like, hey, I really want to learn more about that, or I think I have a dealer that may be successful with that, or maybe you have a homeowner in mind and you think, hey, I think that this would be really good for her application or his or her application, send them to this website. You have access to all of these products through your local Goodman branch. There also has spec sheets on there, and we have consumer brochures. All that is PDF downloaded, so you can easily grab it, send it in an email, and it can be a quick exchange. So be on the lookout for that. It's always up to date. We don't launch new products without first updating our website. So check that out. So breaking down, Rob, we kind of talked about this, right? We talked about air filtration already. We kind of talked about the benefits. We said it is probably easy to say it's probably the most common. I think all of us here on this call probably have a 1 or 2 inch filter somewhere in our house, right? That we always have to exchange. And that's really important. And you also kind of mentioned already about the home portables versus your whole home filtration. And that's a big deal, right? So when that being said, that strategy has to come from one of 2 things. One is how often are you running that equipment? So let's say you have a homeowner who is not running their equipment because maybe it's too loud. They don't like the noise and the fan. They only run it when they need to, or they're in those environments like we mentioned where you just open the windows and you're good. You're not going to have an effective filtration solution because you're not getting anything to pass through that filter. So number 1 is we have to maintain things passing through the system, and we're moving actual air. Second thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we have good maintenance on that filter. So if we have a really good filter strategy, we're running the fan maybe every 10 minutes, or we're running the equipment, we have a really good solution there. But then we have a dirty filter, we're not really doing anything good for the actual homeowner, and actually we're just going to be adding more static pressure to that actual equipment. So it's kind of double whammy. You need to make sure that you're running the system, and you have to make sure you're keeping up with that actual filter. But when we're talking about filters, one of the biggest misconceptions, or I would say the biggest confusing factor, is which MERV are we supposed to use, and what does that mean, Rob?
Yeah, so the best, most probably asked question out there by homeowners, right? What air filter do I buy? And you go to the big box stores, you're only going to get up to a certain, MERV level, which we'll talk about. So MERV was established by ASHRAE, minimum efficiency value, rating value. So it puts all filters basically on a level playing field as the way they're tested for how much they're actually taking out of the air, right? And it's a number scale from 1 to 20. Predominantly anything from 1 to 16 would be all the filters out there other than HEPA. HEPA is usually 17 and higher, MERV 17 and higher. The idea is the higher the number, the more it's going to take out of the air. Even the filters that come standard with equipment, we all know they're more, I think the whole trade knows they're just they're more equipment protectors than they are protectors of our breathing air. So yeah, opportunity is plentiful out there because there's a huge 1 inch market, but I would say as going forward to get to the higher MERV numbers, you're going to see wider filters, right? So immediate air cleaner cabinet is going to be a lot wider than a 1 inch filter. Again, you might be restricted and you can't get something higher than a 1 inch filter in the system because you're too restricted. There's still solutions there, including a HEPA filter that we're going to be talking about. So again, it puts everybody on a level playing field. And again, if you go to big box stores, this is where you guys have the advantage. I think think the most you might even see might even be a MERV 8. I could, depending on the store itself. But again, you are the ones that are going to be the experts here. If you don't know what MERV is, we can help you get there through training. And honestly, the homeowner doesn't really need to know who MERV is. They might ask, who is that guy, right? I thought MERV was 72. No, MERV can be up to 20. So the point here is, the higher the number, if you're explaining it to a homeowner, we can help you with the verbiage, but the higher the number, the more it takes out of the air. And again, you're only going to get so far when you're looking at, online solutions or vendors that just don't have the knowledge or the know-how to increase the filter capacity in a residential or commercial system. So yeah, MERV is going to be important going forward to understand.
Absolutely. And then you kind of touched on it, but let's talk about really what is a HEPA?
Yep, high efficiency particulate arrestor or air filter is HEPA. And I always say, if you really want to just to keep it down and simple to any layperson you might be talking to, homeowner or building manager or maintenance, it's hospital grade filtration is what I always use to explain it to folks. So fine particulates, in fact, anything in the particles that are floating in the air that you and I can't see are measured in microns, right? They're so small, including, even viruses have a measurement to them, right? So we have to get to a point where we can start to filter those out. HEPA is the way to go. And even if you're not concerned about getting sick, but you might have allergies, HEPA is still a viable option. It's an option, again, even take out the last 2 years of our lives and go back in time. HEPA has always been there. It's always been a solution. But it's important to understand that there's a stigma, I think, always associated with HEPA in the trade, and that it was too hard to install and it was too costly. And I think if you all take a second look at that, those two points, you're going to find that and we'll talk about some of that here, you're going to find that it's way easier to install now than I think in years past, and it's even more affordable. So again, these are filters that are MERV 17 and higher, and we're actually talking about taking out those dusts, pollens, mold, bacteria, and airborne particles. You don't usually typically find viruses all by themselves in the environment. They're usually attached to something else, and that's where HEPA comes in, and we can start grabbing a lot of that viral load that's in the space, utilizing this. So it's an option. It's an option worthy of looking at. If you're not offering the service now, we'll get into the nitty gritty of the actual Clean Comfort HEPA here shortly too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a difference, right, between your regular MERV. You said it best, like with the equipment, you get a standard one that's really kind of kind of going after the equipment, not really going after the air at all.
Yeah, it's all based on particle size and again, if a MERV 8 or lower, you're letting a lot of the airborne particulate matter go through that thing, most likely, and you're not actually improving the space at all until you get above that. I mean, there's still viable options. It all depends on your goal, right? If you're worried about getting sick and and you have allergies, you're going to start looking MERV 8 and higher. If you're really concerned going forward, and here's the other thing too. HEPA, the other stigma in this trade has been the static pressure drop, right? When HVAC guys start talking air filtration, they are instantly talking, well, that might choke my system off because the static pressure drop across that filter is too great that I'm going to cause other problems, which is totally true, right? HEPA, take another look at it, because you're not going to tax the HVAC system with any extra static air pressure loss, because it has its own integral fan that you'll see. That's another thing. I think just an educational standpoint, HEPA can be added to almost any split air system, especially residentially, in an easier way than a lot more than people understand or know about.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and, so we're teasing them a little bit, but let's talk about the brand new.
There you go. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, we just launched 2 new HEPAs. Very, very excited about this. This has been 2 years in the making to make sure that we were going to be successful in this product line, and it really is as simple as the models are showing. So you have a CC HEPA UV, and then you have a CC HEPA. So obviously the one with UV has a UV light, and in that UV light, you actually get dual 18-watt bulbs. So that is going to be your first line the pass through of your filtration. So it's gonna, what that HEPA does is, again, this is a bypass product. So what that means is that as air's coming through the actual return, we are using an ECM motor that is pulling the air out of that return into this filtration solution, and then we pass it back. So by doing that, we're not getting that 100% airflow like you'd say a normal traditional media cabinet. So this is not saying you should or should not have a media cabinet. We definitely want you to have a media cabinet, but what this does is this is just an extra level, right? It's an added premium product for that device, because we're going to be pulling air away from that system. So what we have is we have 2 UV lights, and then once it goes underneath that, we actually have a pre-filter. So it's going to be your normal standard just pleated filter, but on the back of that, it's actually going to be a carbon filter. And again, your carbon filter is what goes after those larger particles. So for example, if you smoke in the house, let's say you're cooking a lot, like you love to cook bacon every morning, or on the weekends, you like to do that as a special treat. You know, a lot of houses you can see smoke or any kind of residue in that actual kitchen for long periods of time. With that HEPA and that carbon, that'll actually go after that. So that'll actually minimize that in the time of that, which is really, really big for a lot of people that are really big on cooking. And then it's going to go through the ECM motor. That motor is going to run at 2 stages. We can have a high stage and a low stage. The high stage is around 320 CFM, and then the low stage is around 120 CFM. And then last but not least, the name and the power behind the name is the HEPA. So the HEPA product actually goes last, and then we go ahead and we place it back in the system. So the actual footprint of these 2 units are exactly the same. So that's what's really nice. This one's a little taller because we have the UV light. The second thing that's truly, really convenient for all of us on this call is how simple of an installation process this is. So if we look at it, we have 2 forms we could do. We can either wall mount it. So this can go anywhere that you can run flex duct to. So let's say you have a closet, a garage, or even an attic. The only really requirement that makes it even easier is that this is a plug and play option, which means you just plug this in and then you plug it into a standard 120 outlet anywhere in the house, just like you do your cell phone, and then that is powered up and ready to go. So anywhere you have an outlet or you can run something, you can easily install this, and then we get some flex duct in there and we can mount it just about anywhere. If this was Texas, I already have a spot in my attic where it would go perfectly, and then I can have perfect access to my wall outlet, and I can plug it in and run that flex duct from the return and back into the return. So this is why it's called a bypass. This is why we're not adding any static pressure. It's because we're pulling air from that return and then we're sending it back in. So if we look at it, it's not only in the return, but what else is before the return? Then we have our HVAC system. So the point I'm trying to make is that we are going to be able to prolong that HVAC system as well, because it's already going through all this treatment before it even hits the HVAC system. So that is another huge benefit with these HEPAs. So it's not only good for the applicant in their home, but it's also going to be really nice for you because you're going to have the longevity of your actual system. The second way we could do it is duct mounted. So if you have a large access to some duct, we actually give you a template. So it comes in the box, and you put that template up on the duct, and then you actually just cut out where you want to go, and then or just measure it out, and then you pull that sheet of paper in, you cut that ring out. You have punch outs on the back. So we have 2 round 8-inch collars on the top and bottom for the wall mounted, and for the duct mounted, we have 2 duct square rectangular cutouts that you just pop out of the HEPA from the top and bottom, and you can mount it that way. Now, since we have this option as well, that means you can even use this as a standalone option. So if you have a strip mall and one of your clients would like a HEPA, again, this just requires a 120 outlet. So you can plug it in anywhere. If they want to place it somewhere in the shopping area, they could do that. It has a top collar, so you can easily just do 3 screws at the top, 3 screws at the bottom, punch out that round 8-inch on the top, punch out the round 8-inch on the bottom, and there you go. You're actually operating as a standalone unit. And the last thing that's really, as you can see, we're very excited about this, is that this actual product comes with a 10-year field scrap warranty. So if there's anything going on, you just take it out, bring it back to the branch and process it. Obviously, this does not apply to any of the replaceable items like the bulbs, the filters, itself. This is just a unit. But again, we feel so confident in this ECM motor that we can offer you that 10-year warranty and be proud of that 10-year filter scrap warranty.
Yeah, so literally, I think in a lot of cases, I can see this installing a lot faster than even a media air cleaner trying to cut sheet metal and put a media air cleaner cabinet in the side of the furnace. This is literally hang, plug and play. I mean, you cut two the knockouts are already there on the HEPA unit, ready to go. And whether you're doing the round collars for the wall mounted or the duct mounted, and like I think you mentioned it too. I mean, you could literally use this. I think a lot of light commercial applications too, or room applications where you literally can hang it on a wall, plug it in near an outlet, like you said, and just turn it on. You got two fan speeds to select from. So you could use it as in conference rooms and so that application. I just want to comment too on the UVC that's in the 4-stage as well, Jonathan. So remember when I was talking earlier about UVC being a source control method in a traditional sense, a lot of contractors are used to ultraviolet lamps being installed on or near the evaporator coil to keep them from growing getting microbial coating. Here you get the advantage with the wattage, 36 watts total. You get by virtue of the air being slowed down in that chamber, you actually can get to a point where you're deactivating microbes and viruses, right? So the microbial and viral deactivation. So you're changing the DNA. So the point here is you're getting additional function. The whole purpose of having dual use UVC lamps in the HEPA is to actually help with deactivation of the microbials. So that's a bonus too here. So again, I would use this in conjunction with, and maybe even bundle. We'll talk about bundling here in a minute, but still a UVC lamp, germicidal UVC lamp in a traditional sense on the evaporator coil.
Absolutely. I think you said it best earlier. It's a whole strategy. It's not just one and all, right?
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah, and think honestly, traditionally in a germicidal lamp, well, and I think we're going to come up to that here in a minute, but we'll put you perspective on things, and people pay thousands of dollars to have a new high SEER system installed. That SEER goes away as soon as there's any kind of coating on that evaporator coil at all. That SEER goes just way down, as many guys understand, and you don't want it to be any micro. And the benefit, we'll come to the UV lamps here in a second, I know, but basically, I wanted to make a point to say in the HEPA, that 4th stage, the UV stage in the HEPA, you'll also get some deactivation of the microbial side of things too.
I love it. And last but not least, if we flip over to our actual full lineup, it brings me to my next point about the HEPA and even translate to all of our cabinets. All of our cabinets, you can see it's kind of like a blank slate in the beginning. And that is because there is no call to action with any of our clean comfort stuff on our website. So there's nowhere for the homeowner to really know where to go. And the reason is because we only sell to Goodman distributors and also select independent branches, but we want the dealer to put their name on all of our products because that way the homeowner knows where to go to get their filters. So you can't buy them online from us. If you do see it online, it's definitely not from us, maybe from someone from China, but definitely Goodman does not actually have that kind of capability. So what we do is we just put it in the hands of the dealer. So for example, the actual sticker comes in a bag, and so I would put Cramer HVAC and my phone number there, and that way when the homeowner goes up there, they know who to call to get that actual filter. So it goes for all of our filtration products that you see here on the lineup. So Rob, let's talk about some UV. We kind of keep teasing them a little bit with the UVC, but let's break down between air and coil. There's a difference, right?
Yeah, there certainly is, and I started to alluding to that. Traditional germicidal UV lamps that we're used to installing on and around evaporator coils technically aren't air purifiers by themselves. Yes, you can get a little bit of purification, but when you install one of these, it's primarily meant for source control and keeping microbial growth at bay on the evaporator coil. I think somewhere along the way, some of you may have heard of dirty sock syndrome, and that's actually an odor, an off-gassing of those microbials on the coil. So we want to eliminate that. You get a UV lamp, you shine it on the evaporator coil to help mitigate and keep that at bay. And honestly, like I mentioned before, you homeowners pay thousands of dollars to purchase from you guys the the new system. It could even be a higher SEER system. As soon as you get a coating on that coil, that SEER goes right out the window. Not to mention the microbes that could potentially grow on the evaporator coil can get spun off into the airstream and become an issue in the breathing space too, in the dwelling. So it does have its function and purpose, but an actual air purifier will actually treat the air so that it'll help with keeping the air and treating the air as much as possible in our actual breathing space out in the space. So there's a definite difference between an air purifier and a coil purifier for sure.
Yeah, we've seen tremendous growth between both products, right?
Oh,
And I mean, and
yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, again, UV lamps in and of themselves have been around an extremely long time, but because of our lives over the past 2 years, and worried about microbial and viral type, situations and getting sick, this has gone a long way to be a solution for many, an affordable solution to many homes. But again, the idea behind this is that you understand that the coil purifiers are meant exactly that, to help the equipment from becoming a problem, versus an air purifier that may or may not have UV. Will also, it's just, again, it's awareness in the market now because of our lives over the past 2 years, and the solutions here are there. They're real. UV has been, like I said, around for a very long time, and it's widely accepted and proven technology to do that, to exactly deactivate germs.
Yeah, and we have a good amount of UV lights, if you will, or purification for a coil and air. And just kind of breaking that down, what that looks like. Let's look at the furnaces first. If you're looking at that, I don't want you to think that one's a premium and one's a standard by any means. It really is just all about the temperature. So we have a high temperature one, which is the one without the screen, and then we have one with the screen that is for low temp. So if you're having an attic situation, you cannot use the low temp one because that screen will be useless. And if you had a basement situation, you could use both, right? So just kind of think of it that way. The one with the screen, it's nice because it kind of just does a countdown of the life, and then it can actually be programmed to say Cramer HVAC with my phone number. So that is a plus. Really we just had one in the past, but then we're like, hey, we're kind of missing out on some opportunities here by not having that dealer's name on there. So we know it can survive in a basement. So let's put a screen on there. So that was really the actual benefit, was just giving more money to that dealer, to more awareness for their actual brand. But the actual functionalities are exactly the same. So there's no actual differences on how the bulb works. It's just purely a advertising thing, if you will. So they both come with two dual bulbs, and they come with that reflector, that parabolic reflector. But that reflector is really good on the furnaces because we know this is going to be sitting after the evaporative coil. And so what that reflector does is, obviously UV is 360, just like we know, but that reflector isolates that to only go into a certain area. So that is really beneficial if you don't have a very long supply plenum. So if we're going right into flex duct, having that reflector shining only on the evaporator coil is going to be really good to not have that exposure against that actual flex duct. And then for air handlers, all of our air handlers actually were built to have the UC18S inside of them. So that's why I kind of flipped that over the air handlers, is because we already have a punch out, and you knock that punch out of our coils, and you can actually slide that UC18 in directly, and it has a magnetic base. So it mounts there, and then you just wire it up, and you are actually good. And then
So
if
that's
you
on
want
the delta plate on the coil,
it's
right?
right on the
Underneath
delta
it.
plate. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's directly in the middle. We actually designed that cutout to be 1.5 to match the actual cutout of that UC18.
Awesome.
And our sister company Daikin is also developing theirs to actually match ours as well. So that UC18 is exactly where we need it to be with that evaporative coil. It's also our most budget-friendly, high-quality UV light you can get. And we do a lot of bundles with that exact one. Then if we move to the air purification, again, don't look at the one with the screen and without the screen. The real difference is just the square footage. So UA 4000 means it can satisfy up to 4,000 square feet. UA 2000 means it can go up to 2,000. So again, if you had a 4,000 square foot home, but you had two systems running at 2,000 square feet, you would just use 2 of the UA 2000. So very, very easy to get. And please check out our website for more details on those. But I guess we better get this, keep moving here, right or wrong, huh, Rob? We're getting close. So ventilation. So we kind of talked about it already. You know, we're keeping that temperature at such a nice level, right? Our energy bills are lower if you have a home between 5 to 10 years, because we're able to keep that temperature. We're able to hold it inside of our house for long periods of time. So we're getting that better efficiency of our unit. We love our lower energy bills, but that means everything inside of our house isn't leaving, whether that's BO, whether that's cooking odors, if we smoke in the house, you know, if we're lighting candles, all that air, all that stuff, even putting perfume on, all that is being trapped inside that home with no way to really get out, right?
Yeah. No, there's no, you know, again, with homes becoming more well insulated, doors and windows becoming more well insulated, that air, that natural air infiltration has gone away. And you know, all right, our homes are great, nice and you know, we keeping the heat in okay, but then what happens to our breathing air? And that's the more important part of the conversation, I think. And you know, again, if you can't open your windows or doors in the middle of the winter or the middle of summer, or because it's raining out, you know, this gives you, mechanical ventilation gives you a means to constantly replenish, you know, your fresh air into the space, and help again mitigate a lot of bad air, stale air, filthy air in the
Right.
space.
There's tons of benefits,
Yeah.
not just for the occupants, but also the dwelling and the environment as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, remember whatever's outside potentially can come inside. So if you're bringing a lot of moisture in from, if you happen to be in a very wet area, relative high humidity area, and you're bringing that in without, you know, treating it, you know, everything inside is gonna suffer, including, you know, dust mites and all the other good stuff that go along with high humidity and mold. So yeah, occupants, dwellings, and for our environment, you know, constantly helping us with the energy savings, and bringing the fresh air out in a meaningful, or replenishing fresh air into the space in a meaningful way and in an efficient way, that you're not, the energy waste is minimal.
That is all what the R is, if you will, in HRV and ERV, right? Heat recovery ventilation and energy recovery ventilation. But you know, we've seen a lot of advances in energy recovery, as well as is, and you know, just the whole space is evolving, because if you've heard about ventilation, there's a high chance that your area mandates it. That's kind of, I've always kind of thought of it that way. Obviously, if you're joining us from Canada, you guys definitely, on all new construction builds, you have to have some form of a ventilator, because they recognize that it's getting tighter. And there is some areas in the U.S. who are flirting around with the idea. I think we can all guess the state of that, is doing that. But there is just a lot going on in the ventilation, that it's really good to be knowledgeable about this now, before it's a mandate, right? You never want to be behind the 8 ball. You want to grow your knowledge, grow your abilities. And with the Clean Comfort brand, we have a tremendous amount of options with your HRV and ERV. You know, HRVs is mainly just for heat recovery, but the ERV, you're getting both latent heat and sensible heat. So that's going to be your, generally speaking, the way it's just easy to kind of understand. It's not necessarily like a rule of thumb, because you can interchange, but in the places where you could use a dehumidifier where it's extremely humid, an ERV is a really good opportunity. And then areas where you may need a humidifier, you need to add humidity into the air, an HRV is a very good option. And our modeling scheme is very easy to understand. So VH, so that's the heat recovery. And then the next 5 letters is just about the CFM. So for example, if we have a VE, ventilation energy, and then it's 30, 160, that means it can range from 30 CFM to 160 CFM. So we kind of keep it easy on that. So again, check out our website for those. So now the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, just one more comment on fresh air, you know, real quick, because I think it's worth it. So, you know, again, we're all about differentiating ourselves in the market, right? I think offering fresh air will help you stand out, because you're probably going to be the only one talking about it. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, I think we all have, as salespeople, sometimes we kind of limit ourselves because we might think that somebody might not afford, you know, this. It might be the most expensive option, but you know what? It's the most universally accepted solution is fresh air, and I think If you have any relationships with some builders even in your markets, I would go reach out to them, because there's some green builders out there too that might have an understanding of this, or already selling some of these. There are opportunities to help them with potential homeowners, building a new house. And fresh air, honestly, with new construction and all the problems that can arise out of off-gassing of all the new construction materials, ventilators are going to go a long way to helping those new homeowners in that new home, help the builder become differentiated as well, and alleviate or eliminate the potential, reduce the potential for issues in the new home, somebody having reactions or getting sick because of off-gassing and different things.
Absolutely. It's definitely a great avenue for any new construction builder.
Yep. And then humidity, this is a narrative that has changed probably really dramatically over the past couple of years too. I love this table. This table is actually from the mid 80s, and it comes from ASHRAE. It's been around a long time, but I'll tell you what, we have to revisit this and talk about this. If you're in some of the northern climates, and the heating systems start coming on this time of year and through the next few months or several months, depending on where you live, a lot of months, you dry out the air when you turn the heating systems on. And I just, late in my career, I didn't really put two and two together. And I thought, flu season is during the winter months. And I'm like, why is that? Well, our heating systems, potentially one of the reasons, our heating systems are on, and we dry the air out. And if we don't replenish that moisture, we actually dehydrate ourselves. So 40 to 60% relative humidity is the ideal zone here, as you can see from the table. When you get outside of that, especially lower than 40%, two really unfortunate things happen. Pathogens thrive, and they can last a lot longer in our spaces. Okay, so the last thing you want is for pathogens to do well in your space, right? Secondly, our body's ability to fight those pathogens is inhibited because we're drying ourselves out. Everything gets dried out. Those fine particles we were talking about in the air that hang out in the air, they tend, because of their size, they tend to go deeper into our bodies and into our lungs and into our bloodstream, and that's what's happening. So again, the drier the air, the worse it is for us. And traditionally, I think we went to the market a little bit different, which I know we'll talk about here, but it's a new narrative that has to be talked about. And on the flip side, in all the southern markets or markets where there's water, you live near a big body of water and you tend to be more humid, bad things happen on that side too, right? Especially dust mites and people with allergies, they thrive, not let alone the bacteria and all the other, other pathogens, they thrive on that side of things too. So again, in terms of whole home solutions, you're going to look at whole home humidification, whole home dehumidification, depending on your season or where you live. It's 40 to 60% RH is optimum, and it directly relates to our well-being.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of hit it on the butt of an old narrative. Is not everyone here, or maybe there's one person here that has a cigar room or even a wine room. But what we all do is we all have that new narrative of actually having that health, right? Sometimes you can value that even more than your actual piano or your art, anything like that.
That was the narrative, and now it's changed. If I'm a contractor now, I am talking about humidity in one way or another, depending on your climate, like I said. But it's natural. It leads the conversation. And honestly, if I'm a contractor, I would lead conversations with health and well-being, right, in the house. What can we do? Are you concerned about somebody with asthma, allergies, or just being dry skin in the wintertime and getting sick? Immunocompromised population is still going to be out there no matter what, but those are the folks that have to be concerned, and humidity is part of the solution, the overall solution in the space, and for this reason, it should be the primary reason.
Absolutely. I was just in Georgia, and we were talking with the TSM about his daughter gets intense nosebleeds. So she wakes up with nosebleeds, and he was like, he didn't really know where to go and what they could do, but he figured out that humidity was the source. And so it was actually kind of funny, because it's perfect with this slide is that, so they got a portable one. Well, if we were to dissect those portables, whether it's a dehumidifier or a portable humidifier, you look at that humidifier and the tank's about this big, and they say, hey, this will run all night long. So you fill that up with water, because the only way to get moisture in the air is you have to add water to the tank. And so that tank is going to then be emptied across 8 hours. You got to be kidding me. It's never going to do that. And I think we all have heard the saying, if you don't let it run, because you're going to run out the motor. So there's a lot that goes on in this portable. Same with dehumidifiers. If you have a basement or if you're in the south, you take all that moisture from the air and it gets filled in this tank. And the bigger the tank, what does that really mean? So it translates into how heavy that thing is. So you're then taking it out and you're walking with it full, praying that you don't dump it all over your floor, and then you go to dump it out. That is a tremendous amount of effort to refill your humidifier and to, empty out your dehumidifier, when Clean Comfort has solutions that work in conjunction with your current equipment that's able to reach all the rooms. And that's exactly what that TSM and I were talking about. And he was like, yeah, I mean, we had that little portable, it didn't do the job. If she was sleeping in other ranges, like if she slept with me and my wife, that was just like, you had to bring it to the other room. It's like, and he's like, once I got this whole home one, all those problems seem to kind of quickly go away, right? Mm-hmm. And with that being said, we have a tremendous lineup for humidifiers, for evaporative and steam. Our evaporative humidifiers are brand new with Honeywell and Residio, and we just partnered up with them. And we're very excited to offer up a 5-year fill scrap warranty on all these products as well. And we have a manual version, which is just going to be your basic, the one that has been tested tried and true over the course of the last 20 plus years. And then you have your auto models, which is a little bit more advanced. It's a little bit quieter, it's more efficient. They come with AGN coated pads, which are going to fight off the standard of dripping water down a pad. You're going to have a lot of growth. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works. But with that AGN coated pad, you're really going after that and getting a little bit of a longer life out of that actual pad. And then with the premium fan, you're going to get a little bit more features in the sense of like LED notifications of when it's on, needs servicing, and when the pad needs changing, or if there's any kind of troubleshooting, that light will actually go. So you kind of get a good feedback with all of those. And then last but not least, we have our premium models with our steam that can be operated at 120 or 250. And basically these are the only way you're going to get 100% output of actual steam into the actual environment. If you think about a pad, water drips down, and not all of that water is 100% used, but with steam, it's all used because of the electrodes heat up that water inside that canister and deliver it straight into the actual HVAC ductwork. So that's why you're getting that 100% output on those. So last but not least, we got dehumidification. So Rob, you kind of said it best at the beginning. This is not just about humidity, but this is also about source, because humidity and moisture is a source, and we want to control it. We never want to get it to be completely empty, because we just went through a whole lineup that is to add moisture into the air. So we would be contradicting ourselves, but keeping it in that 40 to 60% is just kind of the standard of doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So on that end of the spectrum, all kinds of bad things happen when we're damp, right? Even like your slide says there, EPA evidence, and it's very well cited for anybody to go on and look about damp spaces. Damp spaces are horrible for us, not just because of the inconvenience of an odor, but because of actually what could end up in our respiratory system, and and having health issues. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This end of the spectrum is just as important.
Yeah, and we have a pretty full lineup for those. So I want to show this before we kind of break it in, but we have a 65 that it actually has an onboard humidistat. So that can actually be used as a standalone application or ducted. It just really depends on the application. So if you have an opportunity for just a basement application, you want to run standalone, that has an onboard stat, and that can be easily configured that way. But then the 90 and the 120 are also going to have the same footprint of each other. So that's really nice. Just the 120 is a little taller. And both of these products are actually ventilating as well. So you have that extra layer of ventilation that we kind of already talked about. And then all of our dehumidifiers do not come with an actual humidistat. So this is the recommended stat that we use. It's branded Clean Comfort, and it is the HumidiPro. So if it looks similar, that's what it is. It's branded Clean Comfort. So you get that power name. But the overall arching of all three of them, the 65, 90, 120, is that they're going to come with a field scrap warranty of 6 years. So if something goes wrong, you pull it out of the system, take it to your local branch, and they'll process it through Warranty Express and field scrap. So they're just going to give you a new one, and then you could go back and wire it back up easy in that same day. So that was the whole point, is giving you guys the opportunity to move things and get the job done quicker instead of having to wait for something. Also, all of our dehumidifiers are going to come E-coated, What that means is that it's not going to be your standard corporate copper coil. That's going to be already pre-coated. Our other ones used to do this, but it was with an added price. Well, our price includes them here, and which is why we're so confident in giving you that 6-year field scrap warranty, because we know we have a really good product. So last but not least is we're just going to kind of talk to you guys about our new zoning lineup. Very, very excited. You know, when we think about zoning, one of the best ways to think about it is if I were to walk inside your house right now and I'd flip on one light, would it light up all of the rooms in your house? Answer is probably no. What if I flushed one of your toilets? Would it flush all the toilets in your house? Again, that's no. So we have electricity and plumbing that keeps us comfortable, our zone. But the one thing that makes us the most comfortable, our HVAC equipment in our house, may or may not be zoned. And what's funny is that we spend probably 2 to 3% of our time in our car, and our car has a driver's temperature, a passenger's temperature, and a backseat temperature. So we have 3 zones in our little Toyota Corolla, but we don't have multiple zones inside the house where we're spending over 90% of our time. It's also for contractors is it's going to give you some more money back, right? More money in your pocket by selling the zoning, and making that easy is what Clean Comfort is all about. So we have our bypassless free options that are going to come with a 10-year warranty. For the panel, again, it's field scrap. It's going to come with a kit that's your electronic static pressure. It's also going to come with a secondary transformer and a high and low temperature sensor. And these actually are working and compatible with our fully modulating 3-wire dampers that are Belimo actuators. So they're fully modulating, open and close, and that's really where the magic comes from. So if we're looking right here, right now, zone 1 and zone 3 are not calling, but zone 2 is. And again, we do not have a bypass. So we need a way to regulate the static pressure. So we're going to be using that electronic static pressure sensor inside the supply. So that's constantly monitoring it. And once we hit an unsafe level, for right now, we ship everything at 0.3 waters per column. But you can see there's a dial. So you can easily turn that to 0.5 or whatever you want. But for this exact demonstration, we're going to show you at 0.3. So let's say that we're now seeing a static pressure reading of 0.4 waters per column. Zone 1 and zone 3 are going to gradually open because, again, we have fully modulated dampers. So zone 1 and zone 3 are not going to experience any kind of temperature swing. We're just opening it up enough to get that static pressure back to that safe level of 0.3. And as soon as we do that, those begin to close. Then we have our economy version where we offer up a 5-year competitive warranty on these, and they are field scrap as well. It's going to come with the same amount of panels, so 2, 3, and 6 zones are available. And these are, again, Belimo actuators that work with these, and they do carry a 5-year warranty. But these kits do not come with the electronic static pressure sensor, so you do need a bypass. So we have round, rectangular, barometric, electronic, all of that is available under the Clean Comfort brand. And last but not least, our technical support line. So if you have any questions or you have any technical help that you need, 83340 Clean is where you go, whether that's from filters or if it's from zoning equipment. We have one central phone that we can handle all of our different vendors' technical support. It's a lot easier to have that one line versus giving you 9 different technical support questions and answers lines. So call that number, go through the process, and it'll patch you over to the correct vendor where you can get the correct amount of help. And again, these guys have been doing this for a very, very long time. So they're extremely knowledgeable on their product, and they're going to be able to help you. When it comes to training and support, we have a lot of stuff on YouTube, as well as we do these trainings here. If you want, or if you're interested in having a smaller training of a particular line, reach out to Rob or I, and we could easily set something up. We love to do that. We love to meet in small groups because more people are kind of more interested in a sense of they're able to ask a lot more questions that they may not feel comfortable asking in front of a large audience. So check out YouTube and feel free to email us if you have anything else. But we also have other ways of support.
Aha, that's my cue. Thanks, Jonathan.
No
Real
problem.
quick, we're gonna wrap up here. I'm not gonna hold everybody up too much longer, but you have the perfect combination of people and products and resources here and programs with this lineup, this Clean Comfort lineup. We just talked about the awareness in the industry with homeowners. You have the more awareness amongst clients now. they're more educated. We want you to be the leaders. Okay, we would like you to be the indoor air quality leaders in your neck of the woods, because if you want to grow your business and you want to add these services and diversify your portfolio, we have the help here available. We've been very busy on our side the last 3 or 4 years to get you these resources in terms of getting in front of confident in front of homeowners, speaking intelligently in front of homeowners or your clients commercially, whatever it might be, and bringing up these conversations so you can have them and provide and offer solutions and do well, make more margins and grow your business. So the place that you can go is to our website. It's kggconsulting.com. And there's literally a button in the upper right hand corner, get started in IAQ. Now maybe you have IAQ or you sell IAQ and you'd like to get better at it. We have local reps in every corner of the market in the US and Canada to help you, assist you in your businesses with training, on-site training, virtual training, whatever it is to get you comfortable talking about IAQ. You have the product. We can help you get comfortable with the product now, in addition to what you just saw today. And we want you to do as well as you can with this. And again, maybe some of you have been out there and have dabbled in IAQ before but didn't do well. Give us a shot. Get started in IAQ. We have online training as well with our learning management system, but you know, the resources are there. We want you to know that. So we appreciate being a part of this today too, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And that kind of wraps us up. So if there's any questions you guys have, and you typed in the chat, I guess we'll hear from Jessica.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, before we get to questions, I have a couple quick reminders. Put the questions in the questions area so we can answer those now. Also, there's a post-webinar survey, and I'd appreciate your feedback about how we did today. So the first question we have, can consumers buy clean comfort on the internet in any way?
We do not regulate that. We've been trying to make sure that that does not happen. If you were to search for our stuff now and you find somebody, whether it's some kind of wholesaler, they don't work directly from us. They're buying it probably from a branch or from an independent distribution, so they have that avenue, but it's not something that we have set up at a corporate level at all.
Okay. All right. What's the frequency of replacement bulb for coils and HEPA UV?
Okay, so I'll just do the whole kit. We have a 1-year kit. It's just a lot easier to sell things as a 1-year kit. So that 1-year kit will come with the bulbs and the filters. But the reality with the HEPA is going to be a little different than everything else, because again, it's a bypass unit. So we're pulling air in as it comes across. We're not getting that 100% airflow. So our filters will actually go for a longer period of time. So they could either go from 6 to 18 months, and the bulb can go 1 to 2 years, and the HEPA can easily go 2 to 3 years. It's just a lot easier to have a 1-year kit for you and your customers. So the 1-year kit, and then a bulb. Rob, wouldn't you say it's just generic 1 to 2 years?
So the bulb, you actually have a 1 and a 2-year lamp in the Clean Comfort lineup, right? So yeah,
Yes.
Depending on which one you want to go, there's the 1-year version or the 2-year version, either or. It's your choice, whatever you're comfortable offering to your clients, or you can offer both. So
Absolutely.
Okay. And the next question we have is, what's the best way to start the conversation about clean air?
Ooh, Rob,
I
that's
love
all
that
you.
question. I love that question. It's actually in one of the classes that we teach called Selling IAQ. It's about conversation, and honestly, it can start even with the person answering the phones at your place of business, and scheduling a technician to come out or a salesman to come out. It's usually starting it there. Hey, when Mark is there Thursday, we typically do air sampling. Just want to let you know we're going to do an air sample to give you an idea what your indoor air quality looks like. A lot of conversations, even if you don't want to do that, start around just making observations in the house while you're doing your walkthrough or fixing something. There might be a portable unit over in the corner. Just if you feel comfortable, I always say just ask about it. Hey, I noticed you had that over there. How do you like that? What can I ask what the story is there? And just let the homeowner talk. They're going to tell you, somebody has allergies or asthma, or they did it for that reason. And then the segue would be, wow, I can appreciate that. How would you like that? I have a device that, we can do your whole house. So you get the story. It's all about information, asking the right questions up front, and just, or maybe you see a house full of candles. or maybe you see a house that has a lot of those Glade plug-in units in. There's clues or cues that if you notice and can see without being creepy, that you're asking prying questions or not. It's however comfortable, but it's all about conversation. It's about starting the conversation and being comfortable and confident in your knowledge of IAQ, because you are the experts. People look to you for advice and for direction, and we want we can help you start those conversations if that's the direction you want to go. But it starts with observation and a walkthrough. We actually do have a walkthrough checklist too that on the KGG website, if you're interested, that actually helps you, remind you of all the things you can look at. It's 2 pages, and when you're done doing the walkthrough from an indoor air quality standpoint, it gives you some talking points about what you found, what you saw, your observations, and where possible solutions that you might want to suggest to the homeowner.
Awesome.
So that's all the questions we have right now. Do you guys have any words you want to share in closing?
I guess just thanks for listening. More importantly, just know how much is at your disposal. We have a pretty good lineup here that easily can sell itself, but we also have a lot of support. We have support from our vendors. We obviously have a tremendous amount of support through KGG. As you can see, Rob and I are doing this presentation, so there's a really good relationship between the two business units. And so we're just you guys are at a good position by having access to such a tremendous lineup that you do not have to manage on your own. That's what we do at the higher level. We go with the vendors. We make sure the pricing's good. We make sure that the warranties are going well. We follow up on POs that are delayed. That's all things that we can do for you that we're already doing, and that kind of takes the stress off. And then Rob, I'll let you finish it off.
Yeah, Jonathan, just to add to what you said, we have the resources available to help you succeed. Let us help you if you want the help. We've been meeting a bunch of contractors, being out in person again in the field over the past few months, and I'm so happy to hear what I'm hearing, that folks want to get involved, and we have been working so hard to give you those resources and help you become those local IAQ experts. Just let us help. The help is here. Let us know what you need going forward, or if you don't see something, we're all ears too about any tools you might need.
Love it.
Thanks. And thanks to everybody who joined us today, whether you're live or listening to a recorded version. If we can assist with anything further, you can reach out to me at Goodman Partners Network at goodmanmfg.com. Thanks again for attending, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.